Hey.
Good to see you again.
See you again. How are you?
Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on down. Come on down.
So this is the bass trap portion of the room we're walking through. You've got the world's largest bass trap, your entire upstairs.
Well, that's kind of the interesting thing about, well, I don't know if you want me to talk about the room.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I noticed that when I was here. It's like you've got the upstairs and this region over here, and they're all functional bass traps.
The room doesn't seal.
That's
right?
it. Yeah, right.
So you know, when I was talking to the acoustic engineer, is the most important thing was we wanted to keep the view.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And then what do we do about the fact that we're going to have distributed home audio no matter what, right? Because there's no way to seal. I was trying to come up with different ways to engineer a way to seal off the stairway, but you know, we decided just to put some acoustic curtains that have some 3 layers of acoustic fabric tucked between the.
So that way you don't get any mid-range echo coming back in here, but the bass goes right through it. It's a bass trap.
The bass, you know, so
it's brilliant.
The room holds bass does bass very well. So yeah, well, welcome Rhapsody out west. It's what I call the place. I don't know what you want me to talk about.
I like people to talk about themselves, their systems, their room.
Okay.
Whatever cool stuff they're into.
Whatever cool stuff. Well, I'll try to be brief because let the music speak for itself. We moved here in 2013. One of the things was I wanted to have we looked at 36 houses with the goal of finding a place that I could make sure I had a good music room. And when we moved here, this was a man cave. So there was a projector and cabinets, and there was a dishwasher and microwave and a little wine fridge and cabinet for glassware and a projector screen and a really crappy surround sound. Typical of a quote-unquote Street of Dreams house. It has all the check boxes of features, but not necessarily well done. So this was a man cave. The little nook over there, that part of the hallway was supposed to be a study, but I couldn't imagine any children wanting to study in a dark little cave. So after a few years, and the room set up sounded pretty good, but unless you got some volume. And if you got some volume, then of course it got excited. So we hired Bonnie Schnitta out of SoundSense LLC in New York City. She did Steve Williams' room down in Southern California. He's one of the founders on the What's Best forum. And that's how I learned of Bonnie. I had her come out, she measured the room, she says, I can make it sound good. Tell your acoustic or your interior designer, do what she wants. And so she measured, and then we sent her things like, for instance, the fabric on my album drawers and the thickness of the drawer face was part of the algorithm of when she designed the room. So she spec'd everything. So we gutted the room, took it to the studs, put blue jeans insulation, recycled blue jeans insulation in all the bays. And then we put mass-loaded vinyl on the wall before we put sheetrock on. So the mass-loaded vinyl is between the sheetrock and the studs to kind of give a cushion and also to absorb some energy. And then from there we added Owens Corning, different 703, 705, 709, different grades and densities of hard fiberglass insulation. And then basically pegboard like you'd buy at the store,
right.
Only it was all custom drilled on site with a random computer generated pattern that was done by Bonnie's algorithm, and how big of holes and different size holes for all the walls that have fabric on them. There is acoustic, this panel behind there, and then the Owens Corning, and then we just used fabric wall to hide everything. I didn't want it to look like a recording studio. I just wanted to make it look like a nice room. So there's a ceiling panel, and even the floor that has special mass-loaded vinyl on the cushion, before the carpet, and then a layer of Bonnie's, I think she calls it Lumitex, which is her fabric. There's a layer of it in the front curtains. There's 3 layers of it in the back curtains. There's a layer under the floor. All these things went into making the room. And the key thing was, got to keep the view, because there's not very many music rooms that have a view like this, and I'm very happy to have it. And it's at night I have landscape lighting up on the trees, and so there's a real nice dimensional effect. You can see some of that on my YouTube channel, Rhapsody Out West on YouTube. So anyway, yeah, so that's the room. Electronics wise, let's start with the tip of the spear. It's Suro Master Gold, like Mike Levine has in his system. Like him, I can't get into it, although there's a wonderful story. A Viger Atlantis turntable, similar to Mike Levine's CS Port. It's a floating platter and a linear tracking tone arm and vacuum hold down. So vacuum hold down, floating platter, and linear tracking arm. That plays into a CS Port phono stage, and I'm just using the internal step-up transformer in the phono stage. This is the controller, the digital controller for the turntable. It has machine learning, so as it learns the room's environment, temperature, humidity, etc., it builds that into the parameters so that it locks everything in. And once I added the new Titan controller and the pump, table's been flawless. Everything's worked perfectly. So there's a lot of history of the Viger turntables being a little bit fussy because they're a lot like a Ferrari. And once you get it dialed in, it was great. Keeping it dialed in was tough. But with the new Titan controller and pump, flawless performance, just perfect. That's the analog side of things. The digital side, I have a Tyco Extreme server, a DCS Rossini DAC, not the Apex, it didn't upgrade it. The reason is because I have the Olympus on order, the new Tyco Olympus. The Olympus has a built-in DAC card, and there's been some reports that it's better. Some people who have a full Vivaldi stack are selling their Vivaldi stack and just going with the DAC that's built into the new Tyco Olympus server. Shunyata power conditioner, Pilium Alexander preamp, preamp and power supply, Pilium Achilles stereo amplifier, 2 power supplies, 2 power switches, basically 2 mono amplifiers in a single chassis, with a wee weight of about 385 pounds.
So are there separate lines, equidistant lines?
Dedicated, I've got 4 dedicated lines
to each channel,
into the
so
room.
there's one to each channel of the amp.
Yeah. So I've got dedicated lines on the power for the amp, dedicated line for the digital side, and then one more dedicated line for ancillary gear.
You're using Kalen's little Oreo cookies to keep your cables up off the floor.
Yeah, I'm using just kind of some stuff I have around. I have not gone to.
Those are Shunyata.
Those are Shunyata. I haven't gone into big details. I was a layman like everybody else up until COVID. building my system, I used to have Wilson Alexia speakers. I had Audio Research amps and preamps. I still have my legacy transparent audio cables. So power cables are all Shunyata, and source. That's what we're looking for. Source signal cables. Signal cables are transparent. This is a little deceiving. I've got a Triode Labs integrated amp sitting on top of the Pilium. That's for
mass loading.
It's another amp for when I set up the other systems. And then finally, the Alcivox Botticelli speakers, panel speakers, with the external crossover. Thanks to the tariff that just went into effect, these are now $162,500. So $162,500. Yeah, with the tariff. So
full range ribbons.
Full range ribbons. They are, the unique thing about the Alcivox is they use neodymium magnets on both sides of the ribbon with a travel of up to 20 millimeters. So, and so this is the base panel, the mid-range, and the super tweeter. And with the external crossover, you have the ability to tune a little bit. You can tune the mid-range up 2 or down 1 from neutral. The tweeter, you can go up 1 or down 1 from neutral. And the bass, you can go woofer, down 1 on the woofer. So you can tune for your room a little bit, which is real nice. I'm just using still point footers underneath the panels because the footers that come aren't necessarily rug friendly. And the still points are a little more rug friendly. Since I move these in and out as I bring other speakers into the room for different setups, I needed to have something that was a little more slider friendly. We'll call it slider friendly. What else? A very nifty piece of art that I had commissioned for the room. I liked it a lot because the little ceramic discs are wound with pine needles.
Huh.
And they all have kind of different shape and texture and depth. And so it's a very acoustic friendly piece of art. And they look like little records. So that's the rig.
Happy day, Bob. I just got an email notice that our closing is released to records, so I'm officially no longer a homeowner.
Now you're homeless.
It just came over.
Hey, you're homeless.
We're here, eh? We found a new house.
So, I'll just take that chair. That one chair is all I need.
There you go. You know, people often say panels can't do bass. And one of the fellows in the audio club came over and came up with a song that he shared, Sunshine of Your Wub.
We heard that at Bill's last night.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous. It's basically ridiculous. Fortunately, it's not very long.
Yeah.
You came in the daytime, and I don't do that much listening in the daytime. Most of the time I'm down here with nighttime, so I have mood lighting for everything. We'll put them on bright so that it adds a little to the ambiance, as it were.
Try doing that with your Wilsons.
And usually, let's see, I can do this and then just.
Oh, wow.
Well, I can go full bright if, when When it's necessary to really brighten up the room, I can do this, but there's no need for that. But this works.
The need was earlier when I was doing the video, but I'm accustomed to people telling me that I'm a terrible videographer, so I don't want to break the trend.
Well, then we have something in common.
I tell them I'm an audiophile, I'm not a videophile.
Yeah. There's people who are very good at it and highly practiced and very cognizant of lighting.
And that's not me. I'm getting there.
And I tend to be after everybody leaves. But at night, the room's beautiful because, like I say, we light up into the woods and the trees, and so it makes a very nice setting. So before I go to Sunshine of Your Wub, I was downstairs the other evening listening, and one of the things that dawned on me is, you know, having a great stereo is really a wonderful way to bring beauty into your life. And some people appreciate art, and I appreciate art very much. But having a great stereo, and now with streaming, you have the ability to add beauty to your life.
The world of love that I'm dreaming, I got a sack full of dreams.
That was cool.
Well, Mike, I'm going to guess that probably sounded a little better than it.
Yeah, much better. I was gonna say, it didn't sound like this.
It didn't sound like that.
No. I mean, it sounds like a completely different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different song. Yeah, crazy. All right, so that's enough of this fancy, sophisticated, spanky music, you know, trying to act like we have some sense of class. Let's get silly. Just because, okay, purpose of this song isn't for the, shall I say, the artistry of it. Maybe so, if you're into such things. I would say it's more of it's a system show-off song, audiophile, geeky stuff, but it is kind of fun, and you will hear some bass from a panel speaker that, let's just say, these aren't your father's Magnapans.
No. That's nuts.
It's crazy. It's the first time I've seen the Mylar moving.
Yeah, you can see the film really moving.
Yeah.
That's, 20 millimeters of throw for a ribbon. 2 centimeters is a long way for a big ribbon. But then you look at how much volume of surface area there is of those ribbons, and so with that much travel, you can produce some bass. Now, sadly, through the iPhone, it's never going to manifest like it did here in the room.
This is a special iPhone. It can actually output 20 hertz through anybody's laptop.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And earbuds.
If people aren't hearing it at home, it's your laptop's fault.
And your earbuds. Okay, well, that was silly, but fun. This is a little less silly, but it's back to the yellow category. We can do that. I'll click down here just to...
How nice to have you here. I've been waiting for so long. Been struggling with my fear of moving on. Stay for a while. Stay for a while.
Yeah, so the whole sub chassis of the Viger is suspended kind of like the SME 30 on rubber bands. So the whole sub chassis floats, and then the platter floats on that. So there's no bearing at all. The only thing touching is the cartridge and the belt. So there's a vertical bearing and a horizontal bearing that is just air suspension. I always like to make sure I get the speed dialed in here. It's a little better without the bright light. Should be. Yeah, good. An audiophile classic that's not too long of a song. Okay. Gosh, you know what I'm going to do before I play this? I'm going to play another song digitally, and I'll just drop the needle here and let this cartridge have a chance to warm up a little, because it typically takes about 10 minutes for that cartridge to kind of really come on song.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll give it a moment to
Probably all of them.
to do that. Yeah, I mean, they get the suspension warmed up a little bit.
Ain't no sunshine when she gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she gone. She's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away.
sunshine when he's gone. This house just ain't no home anytime he goes away.
I have to say, one of the greatest other things about having a good system, and now with streaming, and the ability to just play any song pretty much, it's really fun to go back to listen to songs like that you know, that's part of your, that you grew up with, and find covers and different covers. So that's, you know, so that's Buddy Guy and Tracy Chapman doing that song.
Yeah.
And it's good, right? It's really good. And so some of the songs that you grew up with that maybe you grew a little stale, you can go find really fun covers. Here's an example of a cover I know we all grew up with, certainly me as a punk kid, but done a little different.
Winding your way down on Baker Street, you got a light in your head, dead on your feet, and another crazy day. You drink the night away, and you talk about anything.
So believe it or not, it was Sean Colvin and David Crosby doing that
Oh,
song.
that's David Crosby.
Yeah. Oh, pretty good timing here. Got pretty much right where I want to be.
Good timing.
I sat within the barley green, I sat me with my true love. My sad heart strove the two between, the old love and the new love. The old for her, the new that made me think all island dearly, while soft the wind blew down the glade and shook the golden barley.
How long have you had this table, Bob?
Couple of years now. But it's been really kind of dialed in since I got the controller and the digital controller and the pump and the new pump. So I'd say really the last year it's been truly dialed in.
It's no big thing.
It's no big thing. It's not a thing. Not a thing for that.
So what? It's a big deal.
They're like, eh. Now imagine if I put a mouse up here and got him to act like it's a treadmill. They'd be all over that.
What's that last little gizmo there, Bob?
So this, I like to say, is a plasma arc demagnetizer, destatikizer. And I'd love to say it's a high-tech audiophile piece of equipment that you can get for $1,700. But I'm not a dishonest guy most of the time. It's actually a barbecue lighter that you can get on Amazon for $17. And it creates a little plasma arc. And that plasma arc, my technique is I pass it over the record about 1 centimeter above the record. And if the record is real staticky, that arc will dance around a lot and kind of make some noise. Like it's
right, it's interacting with
It's
it.
interacting. And then as it discharges the static, the arc will just become a steady line. It'll be real quiet.
Right.
And so that's kind of how you know it's done. And it's highly effective. It's way more effective than my Zero Stat,
Wow.
which is
Costs
sad.
a lot more. And
which costs a lot more and does a lot less. Yeah, and it's super easy to apply. It's got a rechargeable battery. So it's yeah,
And you can light your barbecue with it.
and you can light your barbecue with it. Yeah. Let's take a little trip to Narlands.
All right.
Haven't been here for a while. So Chuck, is your system all in boxed up in crates and
Some of it's in
storage,
other people's homes.
Yeah.
Some of it's been scattered to the winds, and some of it's in boxes. And
Was that an emotional disassembly of the system, and or along with
it was a
moving?
rational plan. I decided I'm going to sell everything that it makes sense to sell. I'm only going to hang on to a couple of things, and when we get done moving around, and we settle down, and we build a home, and we build a listening room, then I'll come back and I'll get some of the stuff that I want to keep, and I'll buy new stuff that I wanted to upgrade, and
Yeah. Well,
live happily ever after.
I can appreciate all that. We are approaching the time when my wife retires and contemplating moving and all those kinds of things ourselves.
A big part of doing this trip is for me to experience firsthand some nice rooms, so that when I get ready to build my own, I've got some actual experience, to base it on,
Yeah. Well, that's
instead of just like going online and listening to what other people say.
yeah. It's a hard thing. The struggle of an audio room is you can take a standalone room and add all kinds of tampons to it,
Yeah.
and try to mitigate the sound, and you end up chasing a lot of things and trying a lot of trial and error. But if you don't like it, you can undo it. The other side is you hire somebody that's got a great track record in doing acoustics, and you put your trust in them, and hopefully it turns out real good, because you don't have the same luxury of undoing it if you go down the path, and you invest a lot, and so there was certainly a fair amount of anxiety
Right.
in putting this room together, and kind of wondering, man, hope it doesn't suck. And I think we did all right. I think the room has turned out really well. I haven't done REW and all kinds of things. I haven't gone down that path. So maybe it's blissful. I'd rather stay uninformed if there's errors. And I know I've done just my phone and just analyzer and just brown noise or pink noise or white noise, and looked at the and it's it's different for different. Each set of speakers behaves a little differently in the room. You get to see pretty quickly what the speakers frequency response is. And the room, like this room, there's probably a little bit of a dip right around 100 hertz, but that's the back wave from the panel. And so if you move them out, you change that a little bit. You move them back, it changes a little bit. I've got Helmholtz resonators kind of built in to that. Behind that panel over there is a whole stack of whole home distributed audio nonsense that didn't work really when we moved in, and I didn't do anything to it, so I just kind of shoved it back in the cabinet, and we put a panel over it, and lo and behold, it's a little closet there, so it turns out to be a Helmholtz resonator, part of the acoustic model. There's a bathroom in the back corner of the room that I'm sure that if I open the door 30 degrees versus 60 degrees versus 90 degrees, we'll have somewhat of a change on the bass response. But I think mostly because the room is open, other than the curtains, that the bass is pretty consistent. And, well, like you heard on the Sunshine of Your Wub, I think a lot of rooms, that song will cause the room,
The bass on that is fantastic.
to get crazy, excite a room, and you won't hear what that was, you know. And I think that's a pretty good testimony of the room being able to contain the sound without getting.
My impression is a lot of that energy, it just dissipates out into up the stairway and down the wine cellar, and you know, it's all these random shaped large volume spaces.
And it's it works.
But most of the times when people have a situation like that, you get this long decay echo that comes back from that large room, and so it ruins things. But you've got densely carpeted stairs, you've got your little curtain you can pull, and you've done some nice intelligent tricks to mitigate that, so you get the bonus but without the downside.
It's
that's my impression.
Yeah.
When I first came here, I looked at this and I was like, this is like really brilliant creative use of this space.
We're lucky, right? I mean, you make a place from scratch, you get to design everything, and then you get the constraints of that. No room's perfect. You're always coming up with compromises.
That's for sure.
You know, Mike Levine spent huge amounts of time and tweaking, and bless his heart, he's got ears that I think he hears things that I certainly don't recognize. But maybe if I had the same degree of passion to get it just right, I tend to be less finicky my own self. I want to get it to a place where it sounds really, really good, and then I want to enjoy music.
That's the way I am. I'll focus on something, but then when it sounds good enough that I start getting involved and I enjoy it, then okay, I'm where I want it to be. So why do I want to waste my time that I could be spending enjoying it by trying to make the enjoyment a little bit better?
Some people are tweakers, and I'm less so. I'm not that I didn't, I haven't moved the speakers forward and back and in and out and tweaked them around. I mean, I certainly go through that with every pair of speakers, mostly because if somebody wants to come on audition, I want to have them hear what the speakers are capable of, right? And so I do get a little nutty about getting them placed to where they sound really good. Fortunately, in the room, it hasn't had the Wilsons sounded good in here, the big bass counterpoints sounded good in here, the Desus sound very good in here, these sound very good in here. I had some Heretic point source, coaxial speakers that they went out of business pretty not long after I brought on the line, that sounded really good in here. So fortunately, you look at the forums and people say, your rooms, you shouldn't design it for, if you design it for one speaker, it won't be good for another. And I'm like, well, then it was a shitty design. You might need to place the speakers differently in the room. That's more getting the speaker to sound its best, and rather than trying to get the room tweaked out to accommodate a single speaker. Different philosophies, different approaches. People end up doing what they do, and hopefully they like what they like, and then they get to enjoy their music. And that's really the key of it all, after all, is just hopefully you get to a place where you get to enjoy. And like I said before, every once in a while you stumble on something and you're like, it's either something that you just really is a lot of fun, or you stumble on something that's just really beautiful. Punky, my punk kid days.
I used to be one of those guys where like classical music was classical music and I didn't know anything about the different composers. And then one day I had this guy over and he was like, "Do you have any Tchaikovsky?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe I do." And I had one of these records that's got like multiple composers on it. And I'm like,
Great
"Oh,
classics.
yeah." And there's like, "Oh, there's a Tchaikovsky, one Tchaikovsky on this side and one Tchaikovsky on the other side." So I played those two tracks, and on the first track, I'm like, "Hey, that's pretty good." And then I played the other on the other side. I'm like, "Hey, that's pretty good. I think I like Tchaikovsky."
Right on. Yeah, I like kind of getting those compilations.
Tchaikovsky's easy to like. He
Beethoven.
tends to be pretty dramatic,
Yes, he is.
and if I'm listening to classical, it goes a long way to me enjoying it if it's dramatic.
Yeah.
You know, chamber music,
I like chamber.
yes, maybe sometimes I can get into, but typically, you know, big orchestral works. So, I mean, any of it to me is kind of like wine. I opened a bottle of Pinot Gris the other night. Normally, I'm not a Pinot Gris fan. Tends to be sweet, tends to not be very complex or interesting. And I opened a bottle and was like, dang, that's really good. And it's kind of like, you know, the same thing in music is watch out for your biases, because you might stumble on things that you had no idea. And, you know, if you open your mind and open your ears, sometimes you're like, oh, dang, like you said, like, oh, shit, Tchaikovsky, he's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, my great-great-uncle was Antonin Dvorak. So you'd think maybe I'd appreciate classical music, but I never...
And I heard that. I played that record before, but I never took the time to associate the track with the composer.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's Tchaikovsky. Oh, I like him.
Yeah. He's...
I mean, there's a lot of stuff like in the cartoons and Disney. that
Oh,
was
yeah.
classical music, you know, it was like. You know,
Yeah, that we
didn't
grew...
realize it, you know.
Our first exposure was...
Sure. Mickey Mouse doing something, silly, dancing or something. And it's this great music in the background.
Yeah, Wile E. Coyote. Getting...
Have you tried that DS audio gizmo that centers the records so they sound better because they're not, you don't get the wow from the thing being off center?
You know,
Have you heard that?
I've seen it, and it's, you know, it's another gizmo, and
That's a serious gizmo.
it's a
that
serious
thing.
gizmo. And, you know, I don't know, this with how did that work with vacuum hold down? And I know this, you know, is very
You have to get it
specific
centered
how-
and then vacuum it down
Yeah.
and then take the DS audio thing off.
and so it's almost like you need a big spindle hole so you could account for the eccentricity.
Well, it's got a thing so that you can ream it out if you need to.
Yeah. So then you end up with a bigger hole, and then I'm sure it makes a difference. I'm going to guess that probably makes a bigger difference with certain tone arms versus others.
Greg Weaver's got a demo on his, the audio analyst.
Yeah.
And he's one of the guys I'm going to visit on my travel.
Oh, cool.
And he's got a review of that. And then he does a demo and he plays it. And I thought, well, this is going to be hard to hear on a
Right.
laptop.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard to hear at all.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, and like I say, different tone arms. Does it? Does a
I don't think so, because
linear
it's a
tracker?
speed error thing that's happening.
Right.
It's like a wow that's happening like so it's changing pitch constantly like every RPM.
Right. Well, plus you're throwing the one side of the needle
Yeah, that too. Right.
back and forth against the
Little
groove.
bit, yeah.
Right. So you're forcing up against the groove when at one part of the eccentricity, and then against the other side at the other part. So, yeah, it's well, we had Mike has a friend that we had over who set up his guitar, and we recorded him playing his guitar in the room, and it's like, oh shit, you change the mic, or you change the pattern for,
Right.
for
Right.
the microphone, and you get more room acoustic versus less. And it's like, it's always a recording, right? It's always a recording.
Right.
It's not live. So, there's recordings that are really great music that are not good recordings. And there's really crap music that's recorded really well.
Yeah.
And so ultimately you build a system that hopefully you enjoy. You put on music, and once in a while, that's one fun thing about the interwebs is that you can stream it, and it's like, oh, that's really good. I wonder if it's got a vinyl version. And I wonder if the vinyl version is, is it something today like Jerome Shabbat or whatever that's actually analog recorded, analog produced? So there's still people out there doing, analog production. For those of us that are vinyl geeks, but then the digital world keeps getting better. I mean, I used to be able to come downstairs and I'd listen to vinyl and I'd listen to digital, and then I'm like, yeah, I got to go back to vinyl. And then I
Right.
improved, and it's like, okay, now I'm kind of maybe on par. And then I got this table, which was another leap up. My vinyl got much better. But I can come down and listen to digital all night and sit in my chair and have a great night.
Veg out.
And
Not have to go back and forth and do all the work.
And other times it's like I put on vinyl. Most of the time I'll say this: if I come down and start on vinyl, I'll play vinyl all night long. And it used to be I'd come down and I'd start on digital, I'd end up on vinyl. Once I started vinyl, I stayed there. But now I'm not as fussy. It's like, can I get into the music?
Yeah.
And so maybe it's because the wine cellar influences that. A glass of wine, and I get less fussy.
That's a nice wine cellar.
Yeah.
I bet it's better stocked than it was when I was here. It seemed like it was like you were in the process of stocking it.
Well, it takes time, and right now I'm in the process. I got a new piece of software for cataloging, and it actually builds a 3D model of your wine cellar.
Oh my God.
So you can identify where's, you've got your list of wine, and so it'll tell you, go to row 3, column 6, position 10.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been fun, Bob.
Good.
Appreciate your generous hospitality.
I'm glad it didn't suck.
There's always that danger.
It's always the danger. It's always the danger. Oh, you know what? I played that all that. I don't think I put the vacuum on. Shame on me.
That's why it didn't suck. It didn't have
I don't know the music that well.
Sure.
It sounded like maybe it was a little thin,
Maybe.
but
yeah.
maybe it was a little thin, lacked a little body. But again, recording, unless you know the recording really well, I'm certainly not a good judge.
Well, we have miles to go before we sleep, so
You're going to end up in Grants Pass today?
maybe if we make it that far.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a haul.